Welcome back to the 40 over 40 Summit. Pleased to introduce my next speaker, Christine Lang. Let me tell you a little bit about Christine. She is a master in wealth creation. Yes, CPA and international speaker who helps successful women turn income into lasting wealth. Creator of the Lang Financial Wealth Life System, she guides high achieving professionals to uncover hidden money, rewrite inherited money stories, and build strategic, ease based prosperity. Yes. Known for blending
Absolutely.
structure with soul, Christine empowers women to stop proving and start living because your big life doesn't start with a spreadsheet. No, no, no. It starts with a hell yes. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. All right. Can you see? You probably can't see my screen, can you?
Not at the moment.
How do I? Sorry, I mean, I am a little bit technical or not technical.
At the bottom of your screen, if you
Share
hover at
my
the bottom, there
screen.
should be a
There
share.
we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well,
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sherry, for the opportunity to be here today. I am delighted to be here with your people. So, I'd like to start this out by sharing with you that I love having people over for dinner. When someone walks into my house for dinner, I greet them with a big hug. I find them the most comfortable chair at the table. I offer them a drink. And chances are I already know what their favorite meal is. Dinner is never rushed. There's laughter, there's stories, there's seconds, and there's absolutely dessert. But the best part of sitting around the table is when we finally get to catch up on the successes, on real life, with struggles. It's where that real connection happens. And because when someone sits at my table, they are safe, they're welcome. And here, you don't have to pretend that everything is fine. And this is exactly how I feel about money conversations. For the most part, money has never been welcome at the dinner table. In fact, it feels more like a spotlight or a bill you're afraid to open or something to be avoided at all cost. Women who are smart, capable, successful often whisper a derivation of the same thing to me. They say to me, like, I make really good money, but I have no idea where it's going. But behind that sentence is often something much quieter. It's shame, it's confusion, it's loneliness. And the world talks about money like it's just numbers. But the truth is, money is deeply human. It carries our history, it carries our hopes, our fears, and our sense of safety. Money feels vulnerable. So, my job is to create a table for you, a place where nothing needs to be hidden, a place where you can tell the truth about what's working and what isn't working, a place where shame does not get a seat. And from there, strategy is easy. It's actually the very easiest part. Because when you feel safe enough to look honestly at your money, incredible things start to happen. You start to find that money that's quietly slipping away. You begin to make decisions that actually support the life you want. And you move from reacting to your money to actually leading your money. And here's why we worry about money. These are real statistics. We spend about $1.86 for every dollar that we earn. 85% of us believe that living paycheck to paycheck, that's the new normal. And half of us couldn't come up with 2,500 bucks in a pinch. And in my last 35 years as a financial advisor, what I know for sure is that money and wealth has absolutely nothing to do with the zeros in our bank account. And we all worry about money. We worry, is there going to be enough? Are we going to be able to send our kids to school? Am I going to be able to retire at an early age? And this is the same whether my clients are making $50,000 a year or $250,000 a year. And to say that I worried about money is an absolute understatement. So picture this. It's the first week of grade 11, and I am poured out of my face in my remedial math class when I get called to the principal's office. Ooh, interesting. I wonder what I did now. And while this walk to the office is pretty familiar, I'm a little surprised that it's happening so soon. Frankly, I'm just happy to be out of class. And by the look on my teacher's face, he's pretty happy I'm not in class either. So the principal sits me down and wondering why he looks so serious. Christy, you have two choices. You can either leave or we can ask you to leave. I'm shocked. And I can't hide my excitement. I can leave? Like, where do I sign? I practically skip all the way home thinking, I cannot wait to throw this in my mom's face. And while her reaction was exactly what I had hoped for, what she yelled next surprised me. She said, if you're not going to school, you're going to have to work and pay rent. Oh, I hadn't expected that. In my 16-year-old wisdom, I spat back. Well, if I'm paying rent, it's not going to be to you. And with that, I left. Nowhere to live, no job, no money, no plan at all. And I don't really remember much what happened in those few months after I left home or where I stayed. Thankfully, I was never on the streets. But what I do remember is partying with dangerous people, working a bunch of crappy part time jobs, and living in cold, damp basement suite apartments, not unlike this house that's on the screen. And I did this for a few years until I found myself hiding in a closet, terrified of the man banging on my door demanding money. My boyfriend had made a really bad decision, and I wasn't sure if I was going to wind up in a hospital or a morgue. And I knew in that moment I could not live like that anymore, and something had to change. And I promised myself that if I got out of that closet unhurt, I would make a change. And I knew that if my life was going to change, it was going to have to start with going back to school. Now, this was a terrifying realization for me because I had been told my entire life that I was stupid and I was never going to make anything of my life. But I did it anyway, and I registered for adult high school. And to my utter astonishment, I liked learning. And in fact, I was getting really good grades. I mean, I was a solid B average, which is a far cry from the D's and F's that I was getting in high school. I had no idea I was smart. Now, it took bravery to go back to adult high school and resilience to keep going because those student loans were starting to create a mountain of debt for me. But between those loans and working a bunch of minimum wage part-time jobs, I was struggling to make ends meet. And while it was hard, what I was doing, I had to remind myself that the life I was living before was harder. And the day I knew that I was fully on my own was when I went to my family to ask for some help just to make ends meet. And I was given a resounding no. Sink or swim, I was now completely on my own. And I did it. I graduated from high school with an advanced diploma, which that led to college. And then that college education led to a fantastic job in corporate finance. I was making more money than I could have ever imagined. I had a nice apartment, I had a great sports car, and a smoke and shoe collection. But it was a success story, right? Well, sort of. Well, I looked like a success on the outside. What people didn't see was the crushing debt that I was, quote, pretending that I was, pardon me, that I was hiding, pretending to be successful. I had so many pairs of shoes in my closet, most of them unworn because they hurt my feet. I bet they looked amazing. Same with the clothes in my closet, stuffed full with the price tag still on. I was overgenerous with my friends. After a dinner out, I would feel the tension of the bill coming and yet insist that I pay. But if my friends wouldn't let me pay, then I would excuse myself, go to the washroom, but instead find the server and pay the bill. Because you see, the stress of paying that bill paled in comparison of my desperate need to look successful. And this overspending left me feeling crippling shame and guilt, not to mention soul crushing debt. As a smart, highly educated woman now, I should catch that. I was shoulding myself. I should know better. But it felt like the walk of shame every single time I went to the bank to cash out yet another investment to pay for something unexpected, or more often than not, to pay off my credit card, only to have it rack back up again. And what makes it worse is that I was taking this money from my retirement savings account. And I would beat myself up, shooting myself all the way there, promising myself that this was the last time. But I did it over and over and over again. It was exhausting. Until one day, stuffing yet one more unopened credit card bill into an already overflowing drawer of unopened bills and bank statements, it really hits me like a ton of bricks. And I sunk to my knees. I was completely crushed by what I had done to myself. Felt like I was wearing a 200-pound concrete vest of shame. Something had to change. I couldn't live like this anymore. And in that moment, I decided to change. I needed help, more help that I could find, reading books or listening to conversations at work. I'm telling you, because Google wasn't a thing back then. And it really wasn't until I was in my mid 30s that I find the help that I need. And that help came in the form of an unconventional financial advisor who helped me create a new context for my money. I remember her putting her hand on mine, telling me that it wasn't my fault. Can you imagine? For a girl who thought that everything was her fault, this was an astounding idea. She felt like an older sister to me, making me feel like for once, everything was going to be okay. She told me that my habits and beliefs about money, they weren't even mine. They were given to me by my family. What they said, what they didn't say, and how they behaved and reacted with money. And it was amazing to learn that I had a choice now in my relationship with my money, because the story that I was telling myself was that money equaled worthiness. With her guidance, I started to feel like maybe, just maybe, this time it was possible, because now I was in charge of my money and not the other way around. And I understood that if I wanted true wealth, that it really had nothing to do with how much money I made, and everything about the story that I was telling myself. Now, don't get me wrong, this wasn't a one and done. As time passed and things got hard again, I would have to remind myself, like when I went back to school, while this change was hard, the life that I was living before was harder. So today I am so excited to share with you some practical gems of information that I hope will be impactful in your life. And my promise to you is to share 3 foundational concepts that I share with all of my clients. To do better, you need a better strategy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So step 1, we're going to stabilize. No more ostriching, people. Whether you avoid your money or ignore it, denial is not a long-term strategy. And you cannot know where you're going until you know where you're starting. So tool number 1, if you're taking notes, is to date your money. You may be thinking, Christine, what in the world are you talking about? Date your money? Here's what I mean. I coach my private clients to spend time with their money every single week, to spend some time, set up a quiet time in a favorite spot where you won't be disturbed, so you can completely focus on your money. And I know, I get it. This was me. The idea of looking at my numbers in the early days, it made me feel nauseous. But this was because I had either been avoiding my money or ignoring it, and I wasn't sure where my finances stood. And this is a very common situation. In fact, for me, really, I was avoiding and ignoring. So it was a double whammy. And it really wasn't until I started dating my money every week that things started to change for me. And my clients are finding the same thing. So when you date your money each week, not only are you building a relationship with your money, but you're probably also changing some of your spending habits. You may have even created some goals you're truly emotionally invested with. Because this emotional investment, it starts to create a new money story about how you think and feel about your money. And I know this concept is new, probably. So I'm going to introduce you to a new way to think about that and how to break out your money and your expenses. So the first group is called your committed expenses, and the second group is called your emotional expenses. So let's talk about committed expenses first. These are all of the things that you spend money on that if they went on sale, that you would never run out and buy more. So I like to use the example of gasoline as an example. So when gas goes on sale and it drops by 10 cents, we don't run out and fill up a bunch of jerry cans and store the extra fuel in our garages. Well, unless you're one of my farmer clients, they might actually do that. But for the rest of us, we think, great, it only cost me $90 instead of $110 to fill up my gas tank this week. So if you think about committed expenses with that analogy, it would be things like your mortgage, your rent, your insurance, your car payment, utility bills. I hope this is sort of tracking for you guys. Okay, now let's talk about emotional spending. This is all the stuff that we spend money on when we're feeling the feels. Things like eating out, shopping, Uber Eats. Yeah, mine can be a little bit out of control at times. Online shopping and groceries. Emotional expenses are all the things where we spend money when we're hungry, tired, bored, stressed, or just feel like we need a treat, which, by the way, is important. But what I want to address is the groceries, because this is a place where my clients often push back on, especially when we're talking about their Costco trips. Now, I'm not suggesting you stop by groceries, but has anybody gone to the grocery store hungry, tired, stressed out? Can you put a hell yes in the chat if that's you? Did you buy things that made you feel better even though you didn't need them? I want you to think about your last Costco run. Is there anything in there that was a feel good purchase? And that's where groceries fall into this category. Now, in section 3, I'm going to show you a different way to manage your money. But suffice it to say, before we get there, let's move on to section number 2, which is creating a structure. So remember these? So tool number 2 is about giving your money a job. Now, remember these, we talked about them. I want you to know that these kind of statistics there's a real reason for it, and it lies in neuroscience. Specifically, money is not a math problem. And again, that might sound counterintuitive, but if it were simply a math problem, we wouldn't have those stats. We wouldn't be spending $1.86 for every dollar that we earn on average. It's also a combination of this as well as the stories that we're telling ourselves that are running our unconscious spending. So what this means is that you cannot change this through restrictions. That's code for a budget. And many people use their budgeting to try and control their spending. But no matter what your intent is, budgets never seem to work in the long term. Our brains like things to be easy, which is the neuroscience part. And quite frankly, our brains are lazy and we cannot do mental math. And swiping your debit and your credit card makes things especially hard. And if you have a joint account with someone else, it's absolutely impossible to track your spending. Also, we tend to forget when our automatic payments are coming out. This is why giving your money a job is crucial. So this means this means consciously setting aside money every single month for the things that are important to you. And this is very different than just having a quote savings account or an emergency savings account. And let me explain what I mean. So I'll use myself as an example. So I've managed to put away $5,000 into an emergency savings account. And for a while I stay on track and I feel great about it. Then there's a conference that I've been invited to speak at, and I find these amazing boots on sale that are going to make my outfit spectacular on stage. Now, I know I've got some money sitting in that emergency savings account or savings account. And because my brain can easily justify the purchase, and maybe I even promise myself I'm going to pay it back, which, let's be honest, that never happens, I go out and I buy the boots. Great. Now, what if we shift the context around that and the language around that? And instead of it being a savings or emergency savings account, it's called the I'm taking my family to Mexico account. So now this same quote boot emergency comes up. Now, what are the chances that I'm going out to buy those boots? Right? It's very low because what's more important to me is taking my family to Mexico. There's an emotional tie to it. So instead, I go shopping in my closet, find a great pair of shoes that work, and the conference is great. I hope this is starting to land a little bit for you guys. Now, I want to address this that paying off your debt is also a way to give your money a job, but it shouldn't be your money's only job. And I know I'm pushing against tradition because traditional advice says pay off your debt first. But my question for you is how's that working for you? For most of us, paying off debt feels great. It's a sign of relief. But more often than not, and I know this from personal experience, is that that debt slowly or not so slowly starts to build back up again. And what I know for sure is that we create what we focus on. So if all I'm focusing on is my debt, it can't help but grow. Now, as a caveat, I think there are really good places to have debt, but I don't have enough time to talk about that today, but maybe next time. What I want for you is to focus on wealth creation, not debt elimination, which is also debt creation. All right, step 3, we're going to talk about scaling your money. And your tool number 3 is I'm going to ask you and suggest to you that you break up with your budget because budgets suck. They really do. Even if you love your budget, for the most part, they create suffering. I think budgets are like diets, and when you fall down, which we do, budgets just make you feel bad. Just like when I step on the scale after I've had like a cheat day and that number isn't what I want it to be, budgets also don't give you that room to dream because we have such tight control on every single penny. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And you can't feel control and freedom at the same time. Now I have clients and they know where every single penny is coming and where every single penny is going. It's like they have a stranglehold on their money, which really isn't an empowering place to be. Because if your hands are gripped closed like this, there isn't any way for wealth and abundance to come in. And I mean, honestly, who wants to track the price of eggs for the rest of your life? So, what if you had a method to manage your money that created empowerment rather than shame or guilt? Would that be refreshing? Can you guys put refreshing in the chat if you think that it would be? So here's the foundation of your new money method. It's called the KISS method, and that's a kiss with a C. And it's a simple and powerful way for you to manage your money. Instead of detailed spreadsheets with a lot of numbers to manage, we're going to use that committed and emotional expenses that we talked about earlier to be the foundation. And with the KISS method, there's only 4 categories, and it's all based on your take-home paycheck. So committed, we talked about those. That's places where you would never, ever, ever overspend if they went on sale. So that's your gas, your insurance, your car payments. Investments, those are your longer term plans. So that's, a retirement, sending the kiddos off to university, maybe buying a second home. The first S is for savings, and that's for your shorter term goals. So that's like going on vacation, buying a new car, maybe doing a kitchen renovation. And S for the second S, that's spending, my favorite category. It's for everything else. So it's for your groceries, it's for shopping, it's for eating out. And the way you manage this is with cash. And because this is based on percentages rather than line items, your poor noodle gets a break. And here's some of the advantages to the KISS method and why it's so powerful. So the first is that it's based on percentages of your take-home income. There's only 4 categories. The second is that we set up automatic payments for your savings and investments, but here's the key in that. These savings are not attached to your online banking. Third, it removes all need for mental math. And finally, you're using your cash for fun things. I mean, who doesn't want to have some fun with their money? Now, speaking of cash, it is by far the most powerful tool I can give you to feel empowered with your money. Cash gives this reasoning part of your brain, and I know I'm not pointing at the right places, just illustrative, but it gives the reasoning part of your brain to catch up with this impulsive side of your brain. And that's the power of cash for all of your emotional purchases. You know exactly how much you have to spend. You're likely to make a different decision if you know you only have $100 left for this week and you're not replenishing your cash for 3 days and you still need to go get groceries. There's an immediate pain point with cash. I don't know if you could raise your hand in the chat saying, has anybody ever used cash, or pardon me, had cash in their wallet and used their cards instead? I've done that repeatedly because we like the feeling of cash in our wallets. And of course, the pain point with your debit and credit card, that does not happen until later on when or if you look at your bank balances and your credit card statements. Now, I'd like you to imagine something with me. Imagine you're sitting at my dining room table. Food is ready, the drinks are poured, conversation is warm. And then someone says, "Can I ask you something about money?" And suddenly the table goes quiet because everyone is quietly making their own mental note of their money question. Things like, where's my money going? Why do I make money, but I can't keep money? Why does everybody else seem to be getting ahead? And here's the truth that I want you to hear today. If money feels confusing, overwhelming, even a little shameful, I want you to know that it's not your fault and you're not a mess. You simply hadn't been shown an empowering system until today. Because when you stabilize your money, when you structure your money, and when you allow it to scale, something really incredible happens. Money stops feeling like chaos. And it finally feels like that your money belongs at the table. And today, I've given you a small taste of that system. Now, what if you had access to that entire system to manage your money? Starting to make you feel empowered today. And what if that system was online, easy to use, and you could punt your budget? Hello. And what if you had access to my 30 years of experience to easily get to the root of your current money story and create a new context around it? Because I'll tell you, there is a cost to doing nothing. What will it cost you to be in the same place next year? Will your debt be higher or the same? Will your savings be lower or non-existent? Will you still be on that same roller coaster? Now, my time is almost up, but I really wanted to share some of my most amazing client success stories with you. So, like my clients, let's call them Rob and Janet. They were in their late 50s, completely stressed out when they came to me. His business was doing really well, but he was using his business accounts as an ATM machine. She hated her job. But because two of their three grown children had just moved home, neither of them working, Janet and Rob now were taking care of two more people financially. Now, after including their adult children in my program, which by the way, they're all out on their own and doing really well, Janet and Rob have accumulated over $400,000 in wealth over the last 10 years we've been working together. All of their consumer debt is paid off. And Janet retired from her job and is working full-time with Rob, and they are loving life. Another client, let's call her Gina. She's a mother of two, and the way that she and her husband separate their finances is definitely separate. Gina really wanted to buy a family cabin. She had no idea how to get there. Together, we found $2,000 a month that she was spending without realizing it. She had a closet full of beautiful clothes and was going away on 4 girls' trips a year. And when she realized this is where her money was going, and while it was fun, it wasn't really what she wanted. So we took the bulk of that $2,000 and started to tuck it away for the cabin, along with her quarterly bonuses. And in 2 years, she had that 75,000. She'd had 75,000 towards her buy her cabin fund. All in all, we projected that she's going to get herself ahead by $87,000 over the next 10 years or so. And that's after she bought the cabin. And finally, Julia, this is a relatively new success story. After taking a look at all of her money, because she really wanted to change her focus in her business, we started using the Find the Money software. We found $9,000 buried in her finances, and we were able to find an additional $197 a month in expenses she didn't need anymore. Now she had enough capital to fund the next chapter of her business, and that $197 is helping to move her business forward. So I would just like to ask you, are you ready to take a chair at the table? Because I'm telling you, wealth is not created through restriction, it is created through alignment. I want to say thank you so very much to be part of this panel today, and it's an absolute honor to be part of the 40 over 40. This is a QR code for your free gift, and as I end, I want to let you know that your big life, as I mentioned in my bio, does not start with a spreadsheet. It starts with a hell yes, and I just want to say you got this. Thank you.
Awesome, Christine. The link for the gift is in the chat there as well.
Okay, great. So I can stop sharing.
And thank you for sharing your story. I think it's like really relatable and nice to know that, we can still come back
Yeah,
from some of these
yeah,
catastrophes that money can, I think
absolutely. And
it
my
can feel.
advice and my strategies and my planning, all of that comes from lived experience. It's not from a textbook, from
Mm-hmm.
lived experience.
Yes. So nice to be because I think that I used to be in finance too, and it's like
Mhm.
people can feel such shame around it,
Absolutely.
right?
Money is
And
vulnerable. I sometimes I'll say like women would rather tell me how much they weigh than the mistakes that they've made with their money. I mean, or have a
yeah.
root canal rather than have discussions about their money. Yeah, it's a very and so a big part of my values and what I bring is that this is a no judgment zone. It is an absolute safe place for you to come and
Hmm.
talk about your money.
All right. And your VIP gift is a 45-minute private money session.
Yes. So
Mhm.
45 minutes for you to come and talk to me. You get access to my 35 years worth of experience. It's a safe place. Come, let's talk about what's going on for you. I'd love to be able to support you into your next steps.
Thank you, Christine. And why not get that extra set of eyes? Like, even if you're, just not sure, or if you just want to double check, like, hey, is there anything else I could improve here? Like, why the heck not? Because here's what I know being in finance too, and what you really showed through your stories is sometimes, like anything else, we just get into patterns. And then it's
Absolutely.
like we can find these little places to go, holy crap, like you'd be
Yeah.
surprised when
Yeah.
someone look at it from a holistic approach, like you're talking about, uh,
Yeah.
the stuff that you can find, and why in the heck not have that in your pocket rather than the
Yeah.
government's or the consumer?
100%. And if someone can help you figure out what story is running your money, once you
Yeah,
know that, you can acknowledge it and you can make a different decision. And that's the empowerment piece.
awesome. Thanks, Christine. So last call, really, really last call for VIP upgrade. Take it. I mean, you can buy it after, but you're just not going to be in the draw if you don't buy an upgrade now. If you feel called to it and you want to get in on that draw for $500 cash, the link is there. Take Christine up on her VIP gift plus all the 40 some other, and of course all the recordings. Thank you, Christine, for your
My
time and
pleasure.
your heart.
Thank you, Sherry, for including me. I am just absolutely honored to be with your people today.
Thank you. You're welcome.